1 year ago today, supporters of former President Donald Trump stormed the U.S. Capitol on the day Congress was meeting to confirm Joe Biden's election victory. 5 people died as a result of that violent riot. The repercussions of that day are still playing out in our courts and in the psyche of the American people. Here's a quick look back at what happened January 6th, 2021.
Came here to protect our republic. Forward! Forward! We are Trump! We are Trump! USA! USA! Stand tall! Fight for Trump! Fight for Trump!
You'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength and you have to be strong. We have come to demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated.
I rise for myself and 60 of my colleagues to object to the counting of the electoral ballots from Arizona.
Doors are barricaded. Glass has been broken into the gallery door. Members on the floor have been evacuated. Others are waiting for Capitol Police and sheltering in place. Members are praying. They broke the glass.
We're all locked down in our offices. I am sickened beyond belief. I can't believe that it is happening in the capital of the United States of America.
You need to take that off and be with us. Go shoot some more Americans. Move! 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 Let's
go! The Senate will come to order. Today was a dark day in the history of the United States Capitol. May God bless the United States of America. Let's get back to work.
Definitely difficult images to look at 1 year later. In a speech at the Capitol today, President Biden rebuked the violence and former President Trump's attempts to overthrow the election, warning that democracy is at risk. Joining us now is Brian Murphy, VP of Global Operations at Logically AI and former acting Undersecretary of Intelligence for the Department of Homeland Security. Brian, thanks so much for being with us. When President Biden took office, he vowed to bring the nation closer together. Are we any closer as a nation 1 year later? And if so, why not?
Well, I think I would look at kind of what happened with January 6th and bring it forward to today. And to answer your question, and then the viewers can decide whether we're closer or not, I guess. So, why January 6th happened, why we remain polarized are connected. Polarization is an outcome of disinformation and misinformation and the general climate that our country's been on the path for. When we added social media really into that, 10, 15 years ago, in terms of much more ubiquitous, that kind of cocktail has energized the polarization. So polarization is not a new political or social phenomenon. It's happened in other once thriving democratic countries. And sometimes those countries come stalling where they are in the democracy movement. So I think to answer your question, are we further along or are we better off? I don't really know that answer because these things kind of move slow, but I don't necessarily see signs of improvement yet either. I think that the country is so polarized, it takes time to heal those polarizations and bring us back together again. So I think it's unknowable right now if we're as polarized as we were, let's say, on January 5th of 2020.
Brian, thanks for being here today. You say that the structure put in place post 9/11 tied to domestic intelligence essentially failed in the days leading up to this riot insurrection. How so?
Yeah, I think it was a colossal failure, and we as a country spent billions and billions investing in what we call the domestic intelligence architecture across the United States, which is tying together state, local, and federal law enforcement so you get a complete picture and there's a flat sharing of information. It worked pretty well until, unfortunately, January 6th. And so that the two kind of main power brokers there are the FBI and DHS. They have the writ, the mandate, and the resources to look across the country to help tie these things together. They failed. And organizations such as the Capitol Police are really what most people will call a dependent organization. They depended on the FBI for intelligence and threat awareness, and same thing with DHS, and they didn't get that. Why those organizations failed, I think, is still under review by the committee that's looking into January 6th. But kind of anecdotally, we know that the members of both the FBI and particularly DHS, which I know personally speaking to it, were intimidated and were not looking at the obvious, which was occurring on social media. And they should have warned the Capitol Police months and weeks ahead of time.
Brian, I know that you believe conditions are in place right now for misinformation, disinformation to continue to sort of run rampant. So I want to talk for a moment about solutions and how you think we can more effectively tackle this issue, this ongoing issue. And one of those is, you say, investing in technology. What specifically would you like to see be done there?
Yeah, so we have the technology now in this country. We're just not using it. And that's always a classic dilemma, right? Finding the right customers for the right technology. But the technology that we have and need to deploy to get ahead of these types of threats really scans across open source social media to find where emerging narratives are occurring and who's sharing those ideas, and then place that in an ecosystem where we have potential harm that could come from it, right? Nobody wants Big Brother spying, whether it's a company or the government, on everything in social media. That's definitely not what I'm saying. But how do you find that ecosystem of those people that are susceptible to these emerging narratives? And then where do you find those emerging narratives as they move cross-platform? Right now, most of the social listening that happens uses yesterday's technology, which is they either look at Twitter or Facebook or one or two other platforms. That's not going to be a recipe for success in the future. We need to be looking and see how these narratives move across, and then who they're influencing, and then measure our success by having a combined team of what I'll call traditional communications team with those social media analysis folks that have the right tool sets, so that if a company or government wants to counter message or take action, they can see what their impact is and adjust as things move along.
And Brian, of course, this was a domestic assault, but foreign actors have long tried to interfere in our politics and spread disinformation. How successful have we been at shutting them down? And then what is the long-term threat if disinformation goes unchecked?
So I think I'll start with your second question. The long-term threat is, this is an existential threat to democracy. It is a slow-moving threat. It's hard for people sometimes to kind of put their mind around, but every day that we continue to stay in the status quo in terms of not educating our public appropriately, not using our technology appropriately to counter this threat, we are wearing away at our pillars of democracy. And it's not just within government, but our trusted institutions that we need to rely on are no longer as credible to some people, and that's unfortunate. And that could be, unfortunately, the press. It could be academia. It could be quite frankly, just a number of ways that people communicate now. Those institutions are just not reliable because many of us live in these filter bubbles where we talk to the like-minded. So that long-term existential threat, we're on that pathway. It is reversible, but that's kind of where we're going. I would think, if I can just dodge your second question a little bit and pivot back to the solution side, where we need to be is understanding kind of what that threat looks like and embracing that technology I talked about. So we start educating people in K through 12. We build a comprehensive public service campaign, and then we get those credible messengers in those communities that are most impacted to start turning the tide.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Brian Murphy of Logically AI, also former acting Undersecretary of Intelligence for the Department of Homeland Security. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us today.